Hello everyone, are you ready for another adventure? It's me, Wokey, and I'm back with another Fake Grand Order video. And today, we're going to be doing a very different kind of video than I usually do. It's a discussion video, which is going to feature a lot of speculation and stuff like that. Why? Well, because when Richard most recently came out, I got a lot of questions, and a lot of the questions I don't really have answers for. So I just kind of want to discuss, talk about what this could potentially mean for the future of the game that we don't know. There's still a lot of questions that I don't feel I have significant answers to that I would really help with a lot of people nowadays. And in general, I'd love to hear what you have to say about any of the questions I've been brought up, because I feel like we live in a different FGO now. What our game was before Richard is not the same anymore. It's like Pandora's box has been opened, and with it comes a lot of monsters, along with at the bottom of the box a lot of hope for potential things in the future. But I want to talk about that, so that's going to be today's video. I hope you like it. If you do, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, especially comment if you have anything to talk about here. And also, because this is important, don't take anything I say as word of law. This is me with heavy speculation. I am trying my best to figure this out as much as anyone else, because we're in a situation that we've never been in before. So let's begin. So I have a couple of questions here. It's actually more than a couple. I have 6 basic questions here, and these are the questions that I've seen the most pop up. So a lot of these questions popped up when I was summoning on Richard, obviously. So if you don't know the situation, Richard the First, he was a New Year's unit, but he showed up way earlier, around February 6th, instead of what he was going to be, which would have been December 31st, 2026. So he's here extremely early. So I have a bunch of questions. One of the big questions here is, because this is a ripple effect that has never happened in the game before. This is the number one question I've gotten from a lot of people, which is, if he's here now, who's going to be the New Year's unit? And this is a good question to ask, because once he came out, the next thing that came to my mind was, yeah, who is going to be the next New Year's unit? So to take a look over on JP real quick, their New Year's unit was right. This is where Richard was, right here, the New Year's campaign 2025, which would have been ours for this year. So some of the theories I've seen, there's around 3 that I'm going to give enough mention to, because I think they're the most obvious ones. Number 1 is, the most obvious thing that they can do is that Richard just gets a rerun, and that is going to be our New Year's. It's not a unit that's being moved forward. It's not a unit that's being held back. We simply just get Richard again, and this is where he gets his rerun banner, which is okay. I think that's probably the most likely boring answer, but it's also the most yeah, okay, that happens, sure. Nothing too crazy. I guess it makes sense that they have to rerun Richard eventually. And that would make a lot of sense to me. Now, some other ones that I've seen, this is the one I believe can't happen, which I'm going to explain to you why I don't believe it can happen, is I saw some people say that Phantasmoon gets moved back. So instead of coming out on December 25th, she would come out on December 31st. There's one big problem with this. So you'll notice here that on the GSSR, if you don't know this, if you're a newer player and you're watching this video, but I'm going to assume that you're familiar with Fake Grand Order, there's a GSSR every New Year. And on the New Year, they make it very clear to say that the New Year's unit will not be on the GSSR. And you'll see here, Phantasmoon is on the GSSR. She has to be on it. And for that reason alone, I would say that she can't be on it, because, you know, she has to be on the GSSR. And if she is the actual main headliner for the GSSR, then it just won't happen. And now I bet you're probably thinking, okay, well, Wokey, would it really matter that we get one less unit for GSSR? And I'll say yes, because way back in the day, we're going to go way back in time now, we, on our side of the game, got extremely angry at them because of a GSSR incident. Let me see if I can quickly, there, it should be here. Sorry, sometimes this site gets a little bit creepy. So we'll go here. We'll see Thanksgiving 2017. The thing that happened is that we got, this was our first ever Thanksgiving. Hey, Skahak is here. Great, crazy, cool. And then what else happens? There's a GSSR. We were expecting this on New Year's, but we're getting it early. Not only are we getting it early, it's 30 paid Saint Quartz instead of the 40 like it was for Japan on launch. That sounds great. It has Berserker, Saber, Okita, Orion, Drake, Altera, Tamamo, Jean, and Waver. That sounds great. Except for we didn't think that this was our New Year's GSSR. What we thought was that we were getting 2 GSSRs, because you'll notice something that's different if we go over here and look at what JP got that year. Which JP, for their GSSR, which was their very first GSSR, it cost 40 paid Saint Quartz. And it also, they had Saber, Altera, Okita, Mordred, Orion, Francis Drake, Jack the Ripper, Waver, Tamamo, Vlad, and Jean. And this specific instance, where when it came to New Year's, we were still thinking, oh man, we're still going to get that GSSR because this one is not the perfect 1-to-1 ratio of what they got. The reason is because we had not received Mordred and Jack the Ripper, because they came with London, and London came before the GSSR. So when New Year's came around and we saw that there was no GSSR for that year because we got it early, it turned out that there was a lot of pushback. And I remember, because I was one of the people who was kind of pissed at that, because I would have preferred waiting for the GSSR and having a chance of getting Mordred and Jack the Ripper, because I like both of those characters. Making the pool smaller for no reason means it wasn't a perfect direct 1-to-1. So this is where the kind of rule of thumb started. So after this, if you're wondering how this in the grand scheme of things is a tiny mess up, but it's early on in the game's lifespan, and there's differences from the JP version in a negative way. Even though the 10 Saint Quartz is a nice bonus, I'm not gonna lie on that. And this is also years long beef at this point. No one's actually still angry about this, but when it was fresh in the wound, I remember a lot of people, we checked on the GSSR to make sure that it was a perfect 1-to-1 from there. And since that point, they've never acknowledged the mistake they made there, because I don't think they see it as one, but they always made sure that our GSSR was either the same as Japan or better. You can make something come up as I think this is a good rule of thumb if you have a game that's behind the JP version of it. You can either make your game, you have to make it in such a way that it's a 1-to-1 or better. You can't make it 1-to-1 or worse, because if you do worse, there's no reason to play the game when it's that far behind. Even if it is nice to get the English translations, people won't put up with that. They won't put up for the worst when someone knows they're getting it better. Japan, on the other hand, they obviously probably get a little annoyed when we get something better, but they're also not 2 years behind. So it kind of goes, whatever, we have the most current version of the game and they have to wait 2 years to get the cool new stuff. It kind of evens out in the kind of grand scheme of things. So that's why I would say that they shouldn't hold back Phantasmoon, because I know there's going to be a decent amount of people who are going to fail to get Phantasmoon, or are specifically planning with the idea of they want to go for GSSR first, because this event released 5 days before New Year's, and it went into January 3rd, which means that you had a chance to do the GSSR, see if you got Phantasmoon, and if you did, you could stop, or you could actually continue on to her banner if you wanted to do it that way. So for that reason alone, I don't think that Phantasmoon would be the New Year's unit for it, because it wouldn't make any sense. You can't go backwards in time. You can only really, you can't make something worse. You can only make something better when you do a trade-off. This isn't an equivalent exchange. We didn't get our boy Richard early so that Phantasmoon would disappear from the GSSR. That's not happening. So that would make sense to me why they would just go like, okay, Richard gets his rerun. Now, the other thing I've seen floated, which is another thing that feels like insane to me, but because we live in a world now where Richard came early, is that what if they just released this year's New Year's unit, which is Lord Logress early? And if they did that, that would be insane. I talked about with Richard, when you introduce a unit earlier to something, or you mess with, or you shake up a meta, like, for example, a lot of the events in Mind don't have Lord Logress in mind, because when the game was up and at 'em, they didn't exist. So a unit this powerful kind of coming in could throw a balance. Now, thankfully for us, our game is a single player game, and who gives a fuck about balance at the end of the day? So I think that it would be kind of cool if they did this. I don't think that they would do this is another thing, though. Could it happen? I don't know. It really is. The Richard thing has completely thrown off everything that I ever thought was possible in this game and has basically thrown it out the window. I don't know what could happen in the future of it. I just want to mention it as something that has given me thought. And my current thought is that seems unlikely, but I would have said the same thing about Richard coming into the game. So I wanted to bring that up. That is the first question that I hear a lot. Who's the New Year's unit? At the end of the day, I don't have an answer for it. I really do think it's going to be a Richard rerun. And if not Richard, then another thing that they could do is potentially move forward a unit here, which would be Beacon. So Beacon would show up here and she would be a little bit here early, 15 days, but we have to kind of we're on a faster schedule at the beginning of the month. So even though her event started 15 days into JP, that doesn't mean it would be the same for us. So I could see them moving up to her and being the New Year's unit instead and actually just start the events. So we'll see, but let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question I have here that I've seen floated around, or at least I've talked to with my brother, is next question. So I talked about GSSRs a little bit ago. What happens to the GSSR? When does what happens to it? So let me show you what I mean real quick. I mean the GSSR for anniversary for New Year's. I assume he's gonna be on it, but the reason I bring it up is we have a GSSR. There's about 2 every year, 3 if you count, I guess, Destiny Order. But there's two times in the year they'll have GSSR banners up. One is during anniversary, and the other is during New Year's typically. And they have occasionally introduced new GSSRs into the game as well. But for right now, we're talking about the stalwarts, the ones we can predict that are happening, right? Okay, follow me here. So for this lucky bag this year, they're divided by pavilions. And you'll see that a lot of these pavilions are themed to the Lost Belts, or they're like, oh, they're from Gouda Gouda, or they're from, you know, some other pavilion, borderless. You'll see that Richard doesn't really fit into any of these. He doesn't, because he doesn't really. I guess the one he would was the New Year's Pavilion or the Chocolate Pavilion, because he is supposed to be a New Year's unit, but also he is kind of releasing around Valentine's Day, so they could release him into one of these. And these are usually a curated group. So I don't know if he would show up in the lucky bag. I would imagine the only thing he would show up is the Destiny Order, which the Destiny Order is itself split into, you just choose between 9 units. You can pick him as a Saber, and I think that would make sense. I think that would be kind of sucky, because I believe that every unit that, I guess not every unit is on here now that I actually look at it, and, you know, to be fair, but I think all the newer units should be on there between a certain date. If it's, if they were released this year, they should be on there, but I guess they kind of run into an issue of, I don't know if they would be on there. It would be really great if they had come out and said, like, hey, here's how we're going to be handling him for GSSRs, but obviously that's way in the future, and they probably are themselves thinking, so is he actually being added to this? They probably don't know the answer either. And as far as the GSSR for New Year's, this one is kind of divided by, yeah, this is divided by it, so they could definitely do it, put him into one of the males, and that would be perfectly fine. But males, AoE, yeah, males AoE Buster, which would probably be, actually, I don't know, yeah, probably in this one, I don't know, actually, there's a decent bit here that they could do. How is it for this year? Yeah, the knights are categorized by gender, class disposition, and NP card type. So yes, he would have to be in the Saber one, and NP effect, so damage / support. So I don't know what's going to happen to him. I really hope that he does appear on the GSSR, but if he's not on the GSSR, then I hope that they say that now and not wait until the anniversary where they say, hey, by the way, he's not actually going to be on here, because he was never planned to be on here and we don't have approval to put him on here. I think that's a cop-out to do it that way. If they're releasing units early, they should make sure that they have a plan for them in place for GSSR. That's another question. All right, I'm back. Sorry for that slight cut there. I had to make a cut there because it was a small little accident that happened. So I fixed that, and now we're all good to go. My next question, though, question 3. It relates to the structure in which they've done Richard's banner. So if you don't know, I think everyone knows at this point, but this is the way it goes. When Richard was first announced, the way that they said that his banner would work was that his banner would show up from the 6th to the 8th, and then the next week he'd be back, and it would be a weekend thing, the 13th to the 15th, the 20th to the 22nd, the 27th to the March 1st, and those would be his time to come back. Now, obviously, when this was announced and they saw that he went away, and I still got a couple of questions, I still got a couple of people talking about this, they were like, oh, that sucks. That means my pity doesn't carry over. Except, pity does carry over for this period campaign. So what the fuck is happening here? Have they been able to do this? First of all, if they have discovered the technology, I've been trying to record this section for a decent bit here without getting too overly angry, because it is a lot of things. It is very annoying. Every time I think of this, I'm hoping for God that the answer is that they found a way. I don't remember most of the stream, so if they answered it here, please let me know, because it'd be great to know. But in general, I assumed that it wasn't possible to carry pity over because they didn't have the technology to do it. And to be fair, right now, this is a single focused banner on Richard. There's no like other 4-stars or stuff like that or changes to it. That was one of the main things that I assumed was the reason they decided not to keep pity, was that they didn't want to share pity around a featured 4-star, which sounds like complete bullshit to me, but whatever. They didn't want to do it that way, or they didn't know how to do it that way, whatever this case may be. Someone won an argument somewhere, because Richard was allowed to have a banner that was structured like this. Now, in terms of the actual structure of it, I don't know if this is a good structure. It's a very different structure, that's for sure. But I did have from a lot of people who said, like, I can't believe I missed my window and now I just can't get them. And then I told them, like, actually the pity carries over. You can definitely show up in a later month. And they said, oh, well, I guess I'll try a little bit later when I've either grinded more or I had a little bit more money. And I guess that makes sense as a way to do it. And it definitely helps a whole bunch that the pity carries over, because if the pity did not carry over, this just straight up sucks. It is the worst thing ever. But the fact that they have this working, it makes me think, will we eventually get the day where we have banners where we can have pity carry over and there's other featured 4-star? Because that would be excellent for summer. I wouldn't have had to have the mental breakdown I did where I wasn't able to get Summer Chloe and I wasn't able to get Bargus to NP5, Summer Bargus. It would have been really great if there was actually a Melusane way to have her carry over, and they'd be like, okay, these can carry over between them and they can do that again. The fact that they're dipping their toes in it, I think, is them trying to gauge how much people like this. And I do like this a whole bunch, and I hope that they continue to do more stuff like this and expand it to where now we can have the return of those old style banners, because I'm just tired of summoning on banners that feature 2 4-stars on it. It's for summer. It annoys me to no end. I actually prefer the banner structure of 1 SSR and 1 SR, and I have been attacked on my Discord by another person who said, you're insane. Why would you ever want to go back to those style banners? It was terrible because you had to do 3 SSRs and 1 SR. And I said, I just really like that. I knew that when I got a featured SR, it was always that one featured SR. And when there's 2 of them, I just don't like it when I have to get a unit that either I only ever wanted 1 copy, but now I have multiple copies of, or there's definitely one that I would have loved more copies and I'm just not getting them. It's frustrating. Like, I understand it's a good pull, but you have to also understand in a gacha, if you don't pull what you want, you can still be angry at the situation. It's very dumb because it's gacha related, but everything related to gachas is dumb, so I think I can feel dumb. So this is a big question for me. This is a big one that I think is going to affect a lot of the future stuff. I hope that we see more of this of it, but I don't know if they're going to continue, and I also don't know the full logistics of it. If you know any more information, I would love to hear it. I would definitely love to hear anything you had to say about that. So next question. This is a big one because this one I saw a lot of people talking about around April. But now that we've seen that Richard's been moved up, can anyone be really moved up now? So I had a comment from someone who was called Color of Sakura, who reminded me that this is not the first time that they've actually kind of messed with the scheduling of units. A big example, the 2 that he gave, was one, they did release Night Altar early, and the other one was that they actually released Europa later. If you don't remember this, when Road to Lost Belt 7. I have to remember when Lost Belt 7 happened. So originally on the JP version of the game, Europa and Orion arrived at the same time. And for this one, they broke them apart. So Europa actually showed up later. So I'll go here, the summoning campaign. It was just Super Orion. But then if we go over to JP, just quickly looking, 2021, so that would be 2019. If we go over to them, we go to the Atlantis chapter release, you'll see that Summoning Campaign 2 was the Achilles one, but in terms of Summoning Campaign 1, it was a banner that featured Super Orion and Europa on it, and that was different. So they delayed a unit release because it made more sense. I actually like the way that they did it there. I know it sounds crazy, they're like, they delayed it by like a week, what do you mean? But I thought the banner was much better. If I talk about how I don't like the split between featured SRs, I especially don't like the split between featured SSRs. If I was going for my boy Super Orion and I got Europa, I would be okay with it because Europa looks like a pretty cool mom type character. But obviously Super Orion's my boy. I want to get my boy, but I digress. Let me continue on. So there has been cases where they've kind of messed with the release schedules a little bit, releasing some units a little bit earlier than they expect, releasing them a little bit back. But a full-on, a year, not even a full year, maybe a 11 months early release of Richard is crazy. So if that's the case, could they do this with anything? So it then goes into the other question, which is the big thing that a lot of people talked about. On the schedule that they've released, let me see if I can quickly pull it up. Give me a sec. Okay, on the roadmap, you see here that they said that they were going to release the Hot Springs event late March. And then the next thing we get is sometime mid-June. So a lot of people took that as, oh, there's nothing in the year of the collab, which is April. So that means we're open for April when JP would get their collab event, which they expect to be Fate Strange. What if they released Richard early so that we could then slide that in there? And it sounds crazy when you look at it because you're like, you're right. How come they're not having a collab? Why aren't we having a collab event in April around the time that they have that? That makes perfect sense. Unless you play JP and you're like me and you actually take note that, no, our collabs are actually kind of near the end of March. There's no easy way around this one because it's like, yeah, you're right. They do have it in April, but you'll notice here, Lilim Harlot was in late April. Ours to be on the right schedule because our anniversary is early. Because if you're wondering why this always happens, it's because our anniversary happens on Anime Expo while theirs happens in August usually, either late July or early August. Like this year, for example, the anniversary did not happen until August 4th, and I'm going to tell you this right now, our anniversary has to happen on July. Beginning of the month July, so that means everything here goes a little bit early. So yes, Kumano Hot Springs did happen end of April. It has to be moved to end of March. If that's the case, what you should be looking at is in April, it's May. And what's in May? The Chaldea Summer Adventure, the survey rerun. And I've been told in previous videos by a commenter, maybe this is not right, but I'm going to choose to believe them. If you have different information for me, feel free. But someone asked the team on NA, are we going to get the survey? And they said, no, we're just going to get the events that Japan got. So currently, I believe that we are likely just going to get a Chaldea Summer Adventure. Now, the other thing is, would I think that they would get rid of this event and instead we get a new one from Japan instead? I don't know. I think that would be kind of awesome. I don't really expect it to happen, but if it happened, holy shit, that's insane. That's crazy. This would be the first time ever that me experiencing it, we would receive an event the same time as Japan. Now, some different things have to happen. You'll also see what I see. So how does that affect GSSR? A lot of questions kind of raise up. How good is that unit going to be? Do they care? Is it on the power level of Japan? I know it's like, there's a 2 years difference. A lot of power creep happens in 2 years, and a unit that would be acceptable in the Japan environment in which they currently exist, or they're looking to release a unit that is crazy strong for Japan right now, would be fucking insane for our current version of the game. I think it would be crazy. Whether or not that happens, we're gonna have to wait and see. I really do think that this is a lot of people dreaming, but I don't want to mess with people's dreams. But likely the event that's going to happen for us in April is Chaldea Summer Adventure. It's a survey rerun. Would I prefer it if they got rid of this event and kind of did that instead? Yeah, to be honest with you, that would be fucking sweet, and it would be cool as hell. Whether it happens or not, this is the part where it's like, it's hard for me to answer these questions for people because I just don't know the answer anymore. A lot of this video is like you hearing me freaking out because for the first time I got to experience what it's like playing in Japan. It's like, how do you guys play like this? You just don't know what the fuck happens. So then we go to my final question. So my final question is, can anyone be moved up now? I don't know the answer to that. Will there be a Fate Strange collab in April? I don't know. Could there's this is the unit that this is the thing that they would be replacing. I don't think they would replace Draco because Draco's rerun happens right after it. So maybe it's a case of we would have Draco return and we would have this return. And now we reach to the end here. So what happens to all our saving? So when I did my video earlier on in the year, it was with the assumption that I didn't have to summon on this. And I think a lot of people did their like little deduction thing and said like, you know what? Do I want any of the banners from this summer event, which would be, oh, do I want Summer Okita? Do I want Summer Kama? And I bet there's a couple people who said like, oh, I would love Summer Kama actually. This would be a good chance for me to either get more copies, something like that. And then other people are like, no, I can skip that and I can go for Draco. But all our plans kind of go out the window if they start introducing a lot more units to it. So then the question I get a lot from now is, what do I do? Wokey, I planned this entire thing. I'm with you here. I planned my entire year. Did I plan on summoning on Richard? Not really. Those 3 multis, I don't know where the fuck they go now. I have to figure out a way to probably put more money into the game if I want to get back to my original total of it. And I think that right there is what they want. I think they've done interviews saying that I think they don't like us having Clairvoyancy X. They've always said, I don't like that you got, like when they've done those panels at Anime Expo and people are like, and now we get the thing that Japan got, yay. I don't think they like that. I think they're actually actively annoyed about that. I think they're annoyed about how much we save. I saved 300 tickets because I think Space Erishkigal. But if they, for Space Erishkigal. But if right now, today, they said, Wokey, we are dropping a Summer Quetz, would I drop everything for her? And the answer is abso-fucking-lutely, I would. Would all my plans go away if we release the character you liked, it's extremely early, or it's a new version of a character that does not exist? And the answer is, you're goddamn right I would. Is that the right thing to do? Probably not. But that's what they want you to do. So this one I think is a little bit easier because this is an inner reproach. How do I think you should handle this from this day going on? And I think is the thing I'm going to have to start saying in videos is that if you have a plan, stick to the plan. If you are someone who was like, I want Richard, but I was waiting for him for the end of the year, I think your best bet was still waiting for the end of the year. I do think that he's still going to have a banner at the end of the year, whether or not he's the main fronting character of it all. I don't know. But now, in theory, if you're a fan of Richard and you don't get him here, you know that he should likely get something around New Year's. But what the devs want you to be is like, well, what if we just kind of dropped one stealthily sometime in, let's say, October, when they don't really expect it, or for during Thanksgiving, and then you go, oh shit. Well, that feeling is you kind of going immediately and wasting your savings, when the right thing to do is probably to keep on the same pace. Now, you do run the risk of saying, am I really going to risk it and say that I don't know if he's even going to come back for New Year's? That's a tough question. That really is a tough question. I don't really have a good answer for it. I would gamble. You either gamble on a future release or you gamble on the current release. And in theory, in the future, you have more St. Quartz to work with, and not compared to now. And another thing to kind of keep in mind, and this is going to be true unless they do some fucky thing and they start giving us units that they get in 2026 now, that is a good thing to keep in mind for a lot of the units, is that no matter what, at the end of the year, December, which is going to be for us 2027, there are going to be banners in which everyone returns. absolutely everyone comes back for the final chapter to give you one final chance to go summoning on them. So if worse comes to worse, you know for all your savings that this is the one endpoint where you know your dude is coming back, and maybe that's your best doing a saving. And I know this is not the best answer in the world. I'm still trying to figure out the best answer myself. If you have any ideas on this one, again, I'd love to hear it. And those, I think, are my main basic questions here that I have in a post-Richard world. I really don't think that we can go back to the way things were anymore. Because, like I said, Pandora's box. Pandora's box, when you open it, it's filled with calamities, it's filled with disease, it's filled with all these negative things that could potentially be released into the world. And then at the end of it, there's a little bit of hope still left inside of it. But at the end of the day, you can't close the box again because the box is already being opened. You can't forbid a donkey from winning the Kentucky Derby when it's already won it. It's too late. And I just wanted a video to talk about it, and I'm really glad I'm actually able to talk about it. I don't know if this was actually interesting for anyone, because I don't think unless I'm giving good informational things to talk about, this is just me kind of spitballing by myself trying to figure out some things. But again, that's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. It has been a video I've been meaning to release for a while now. I've been stewing in it, thinking a lot about it, thinking about where does the game go from here now that we live in a post-Richard releasing. Is anything really too out of the ordinary? I don't know. I really don't. Fun to talk about, though. Very fun to talk about. Not so much for saving parts of it. And yeah, I've been meaning to talk about it, but I've been super busy with work, which is also why I haven't been releasing too much of the Valentine's Day event, which I should lock in pretty soon. I have to lock in pretty soon and like release a really long video and kind of do it from there, because my work, I thought it would slow down. Nope. It actually got crazy. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next video. I wish you all the best of luck and have a good day. And I'll see you guys in the next video. So bye-bye now. Peace.